Welcome to Witness, where we bring you the best documentaries from around the world. I'm Ghida Fakhri.
One of the lesser reported consequences of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is damage to the environment. In the occupied West Bank, sewage from some of the illegal Israeli settlements contaminates the groundwater which sustains Palestinian farmers and villagers. And this ecological time bomb seems to be yet another irresolvable issue in the wider political conflict. Filmmaker Yoshka Wessels begins her story in the valley of Salafit, where Bedouin farmer Abu Atiyeh is in despair. Both his livelihood and his children's health are threatened by raw sewage from the villagers above his encampment. But Abu Atiyeh's life does not have to be this way. Further south, collaboration between Palestinians and Israelis in the valley of Wadi Fukin is providing real gains in the protection of water and other common resources. And this exceptional cooperation points the way to possible development in the future. Valleys of hope and despair.
وادي هذا وسخ كله خط. ايوه من عرايل وسلفيت هذا المية الوسخ. شايف نهر لين نهر.
Abu Atiyeh is a Bedouin who lives in the valley of Salfit in the occupied West Bank. His tent is next to the raw sewage flow that comes from the illegal Israeli settlement of Ariel and the Palestinian town of Salfit. The flow severely pollutes the valley's only river, and Abu Atiyeh lives on the front line of this pollution.
يعني احنا هنا يا عمكي والله من عيشتنا عيشة المهاني. من هنا مجاري ومن هنا ناس بكاوتل علينا ومن هنا يهود بردونا ويعني عيشتنا مش بزيادة. بدو احنا من بير السبع. وساكنين من 48 في هالمناطق من 48 واحنا نترقل من جبل لجبل من واد لواد ما فيش ارض يعني بنقعد فيها هاي حياتنا هيك البدو.
The polluted water severely affects the health of Abu Atiyeh's 15 children who suffer from skin and eye infections. Most of the raw sewage here comes from the Israeli settlement of Ariel higher up the hill. Ariel is the fifth largest settlement in the occupied West Bank, with a population of around 40,000. The settlers themselves get their drinking water from the Israeli pipe network and are largely unaffected by the lack of proper treatment facilities. In Salfit, Abu Atiyeh struggles to survive on a meager income from his goats. He's not the only one. Many Palestinians in the occupied West Bank live in pockets of extreme poverty. Up to 80% of the Palestinians living in these valleys face food shortages, and living conditions can be harsh. Instead of tap water, Abu Atiyeh gets his drinking water from tanks. It's expensive. He pays up to 5 times more per liter than the Israeli settlers. He has a well, but it can't be used for drinking because of the high risk of infection from the nearby stream.
هي المية شايفة مية صفراء.
The pollution has already killed most of the wildlife near the spring. Abu Atiyeh's goats have no other option but to drink from it. In 1996, the German government gave the Palestinian Authority $13 million to build a treatment plant. But Israel did not agree with the Palestinian suggestions for a suitable site, and the Germans suspended their support. Now, the plant is indefinitely on hold, and the environment continues to deteriorate. Abu Atiyeh has never received any aid and holds little hope of outside help.
مساعدة بس من ربنا ما فيش مساعدة من أحد يعني. لا سلطة بتعطينا ولا يهود بيعطونا ويعني عيشتنا زي هنا بهالجبال احنا والوحوش. ما فيش ولا واحد بيساعدنا. هذا النهر الأسود ما احنا رايحين عنه بدنا نظل هون لما نموت آخر واحد بيظل بيروح.
The hostility between Palestinians and Israelis in Salfit seems irresolvable, but it doesn't have to be this way. Cooperation between the two sides is possible. Further south in the West Bank, the Palestinian villages in Wadi Fukin and their Israeli neighbors in Tzur Hadassah have formed a rare friendship as they seek to protect their shared environment.
مرحبا. أهلاً سيدر. كيف الحال؟
Abu Mazen is a farmer from Wadi Fukin. His family has farmed this land for generations. But this tradition is under threat and may end because of water shortages.
أنا بتذكر كويس إنه إحنا عايشين في البلد هذه من قبل 600 سنة يعني وعشنا في البلد هذه بأمان وسلام عائلة المناصرة من حوالي 600 سنة فاتت يعني المية اللي عندي أنا ما كفت للأرض هذه علشان نزرعها فبالتالي زرعنا تحت الأراضي التحتانية بس هو السبب الرئيسي إنه هي متروكة هيك بدون زراعة المية اللي هي جفت حسب ما حكينا من أول نتيجة الأعمال الإسرائيلية الموجودة حوالينا من الجهتين.
Despite the Israeli settlement expansion, Abu Mazen is not giving up.
احنا عايشين في البلد هذه وبنظل عايشين فيها باذن الله الى ان تقوم الساعه الى ان يرث الارض الله سبحانه وتعالى الارض ومن عليها. برافو. الله الله الله.
Tami Doron lives in nearby Tzur Hadassah, a village inside Israel's 1967 borders. She met Abu Mazen 10 years ago when she began buying his farm produce.
I was born in Israel. Wadi Fukin has those wonderful, amazing terraces with organic vegetables they grow. And when the second Intifada started, they didn't have a market to sell their vegetables to. 3 times a year, we meet with Abu Mazen. Abu Mazen is a central persona in the village. And by his experience and age, he has some. He got his respect, but also I think it's his charisma and personality. We started the neighbor's path. We built a path from Tzur Hadassah, and they built a path from Wadi Fukin that meets eventually.
Abu Mazen and Tami's efforts to link their two communities is a small but important step in preserving and promoting the local farming heritage. But developments on the opposite side of the valley threaten this work. The Israeli settlement of Beitar Illit is built on land belonging to Wadi Fukin. Since construction began in 1985, 3 of the most crucial of Wadi Fukin's 11 natural springs have dried up. And Beitar Illit's growth shows no sign of stopping. The impact of the settlement's construction on Abu Mazen, like many others, is substantial.
كان في عندنا أراضي في منطقة اسمها عين الكنيسة في شارع هناك 375 على ما أعتقد فصل الأرض هذه تبعتنا بالتالي هم يعني أنا من 12 دنم ما ظلش عندنا إلا 3.5 دنم بس طبعا إحساس كل إنسان فقد جزء من حياته يعني جزء من بدنه جزء من جسمه هم طبعا بحطوا القانون هم فوق القانون حتى اليهود فوق القانون يعني
The expansion of Beitar Illit threatens not only Abu Mazen's livelihood, but also the valley of Wadi Fukin itself. An environment the United Nations calls the best preserved cultural landscape of its type in the West Bank. Farmers like Abu Mazen rely upon natural water springs, many of which are now polluted. It's the lack of a proper waste treatment system that causes most of the damage.
أنا بتذكره لما كنت ولد صغير شاب يعني لسه كان ملان أشجار وكانوا يزرعوا قمح وشعير وحبوب الآن طلع زي ما أنتم شايفين كيف قسموه قطعوه الطرق وجدر وما أنا عارف إيش وهالشغلات كلها والمحطة تبعتهم تنزل هون على بستاننا لأنه كل يوم سبت أسبوعيا بيفتحوا الجورة هذه وبتنزل على الأرض هون حركة الأرض وما خلت فايدة يعني زي ما أنتم شايفين هون الجورة هذه سببت لنا كثير ضرر في الأراضي بالإضافة لأنه هي كمان من ناحية بيئية كمان وهم ما بفكروش ما فيش عندهم مخ يستعملوه.
Join me again after the break here on Witness. Welcome back to Witness. I'm Rida Fakhri.
Collaboration between Palestinians and Israelis in the valley of Wadi Fukin is exceptional in a usually hostile environment. But the approaching Israeli wall threatens the environmental progress these communities have made to date.
Since 2001, Abu Mazen and the villages of Wadi Fukin have worked with people from Tzur Hadassah in Israel to improve environmental protection. In a recent community action, they used Israeli environmental legislation to put pressure on Bitar Illit about the sewage problem, a tactic that paid off.
Gadi was on Friday on this community advocating thing. Their first meeting. And they gave them some new information about the sewage problems between Beitar and Wadi Fukin. First of all, there are good news because I got it that they have a big tank that is supposed to collect all the extra sewage. But this time, people are optimistic about the sewage system. They're not optimistic about the peace process in the Middle East.
But success in solving the sewage problem is one small step forward. Wider political events pose a bigger threat and could destroy the gains made through cooperation so far. The planned route of the Israeli separation wall will cut the valley in two and damage the environment even further. Groups have already started to protest against the wall construction just north of Wadi Fukin. Abu Mazen, Tami and their group decide to fight the wall in another way, by again using Israeli environmental legislation.
احنا طبعا لما بلشنا نشتغل بمقاومة الجدار والاستيطان ونهب الأراضي بتذكر يعني كويس قعدنا مع جزء كبير من أهل بلدنا ولازم نكون ونتحرك على نشوف وضعنا في هالبلد يعني وين بدنا نلك احنا. فكان في اقتراح انه نشوف محامي نتوجه لمحاميين ووصلنا لنتيجة انه نسوي محكمة يعني صار في فصل محكمة.
The rumors of the plans of the separating wall started to arrive to Hadassah, and we got the plan, and we didn't understand the logic behind it. As a community, we contacted Michael Sfard. We wrote a petition together with his advice, and we stood with this petition in the grocery store. You should understand that the grocery store is the social center of Tzur Hadassah, and we gathered lots of signatures.
An environmental study by Friends of the Earth Middle East concluded that the wall would indeed cause irreversible damage to the unique nature and resources of Wadi Fukin.
He's commonly known as Abu Mazen.
Friends of the Earth organizes for Abu Mazen to speak to the elders, a group of high-profile people including Archbishop Desmond Tutu and former Presidents Jimmy Carter and Mary Robinson, to gain their support in fighting construction.
يأخذون من بساتيننا الخضار ونحن كمان نعتمد عليهم في إعلاء كلمتنا نشكرهم شكرا جزيلا. السلام الذي هو أقوى من الصواريخ وأقوى من الطائرات وأقوى من كل شيء، وألف شكر لكم وبارك الله فيكم.
Despite their efforts, the Israeli military court rejects the case against the wall. Refusing to give up, Abu Mazen and the group appeal to the Israeli High Court. While the court considers the case, the illegal settlement of Bitar Elit continues to grow. With an annual growth rate of 10%, Bitar Elit is the fastest growing settlement in the occupied West Bank.
وعلى العكس تماما المستوطنين بتار عليت اللي هم وبيبنوا بتوسعوا بسرعة ليلا ونهارا، ويمكن كمان 5 سنين أو أكثر شوية أو أقل شوية بيكونوا 60-70 ألف نسمة. بالإضافة لأن إحنا بنكون في سجن صغير داخل القرية.
In Wadi Fukin, daily life under Israeli occupation continues. On Fridays, Palestinian families can't spend their free time in their fields because Israeli settlers and soldiers take over the irrigation pools.
So I think it shows us that there is no enlightened occupation. Once you grow up with the idea, without words even, that everything is yours and you have the right to live in somebody else's land, you lose the fine understanding that you have that what is yours and what belongs to the other, and it's terrible. What can I say? It's terrible. Maybe it's a good idea for a project, another friendship project between Tzur Hadassah and Wadi Fukin, to go on Fridays and sit there, and be present, and explain to other people, to people who come, that it's private property and it's not allowed. Nobody can use it as they want.
While waiting for the High Court verdict, Abu Mazen goes to Tzur Hadassah to meet Jewish American visitors and explain his and Tami's work. As a Palestinian, he cannot cross straight from Wadi Fukin. He has to go through the checkpoint near Bethlehem.
والله يستر، يدخلوه ما يدخلوه، يطلعوه ما يطلعوه. هذا الوضع القائم اللي بتعاني منه كل شرائح الشعب الفلسطيني في الضفة الغربية.
مورنينج.
مورنينج.
صباح الخير ابو وائل.
صباح النور، كيف الحال؟
والله تمام. صباح الخير. يلا؟
يلا. هناك كمان يعني ممكن يكون في جدار بيننا وبين سور هداسة. اللي سور هداسة لا تبعد عن واد فوكين أكثر من كيلو ونص، يعني 10 دقائق من هون أنا على واد فوكين بنزل 10 دقائق مشي. أنا الآن لما أجينا وإحنا نقعد معاكم أنا لفيت حوالي 2 ساعة على المحسوم الكبة، وأجينا علشان نقعد معاكم ونتشرف في معرفتكم. مشيت كثير مع ناس كثير مسؤولين كانوا في الحكومة الفلسطينية، الحكومة الإسرائيلية. مشينا كثير ومع ناس محبين للسلام، مشينا ورحنا كثير معاهم وفرجناهم كيف كل الوضع اللي من هون بيكون، وإن شاء الله بيكون في فايدة.
Finally, the High Court announces its verdict. Building plans for the separation wall have been frozen. This is a groundbreaking decision, the first successful challenge to the wall on environmental grounds. Cooperation between the Palestinians and Israelis has been a success, despite initial skepticism.
At the very beginning, the people of Wadi Fukin were very suspicious. They didn't understand why we should want to help them, which shows you how deep the tear is. At the beginning, they thought that we were interested in their land. And it took, I think Abu Mazen was one of the first people who was courageous enough to get out of this fear and say, I think the people of Tzur Hadassah have clean motivation, let's join them.
אתה רואה, מוסי, זה כאילו כבר, זה נהיה יישוב אחד, זה פשוט מדהים.
مرحبا.
سلام.
اهلا مش سادر. كيف الحال؟
الحمد لله.
من اسمك؟
טוב.
كل بسادر؟
כן.
ברוך השם, ברוך השם.
כן. תגיד, העורך דין שעוזר עם הגדר, מיכאל, אתה יודע
מיכאל,
מי
אני
זה?
יודע, מיכאל.
מה הוא?
עשה, אני לא יודע, יש משפטים, לא רק על הגדר, יש בו כביש, על האדמה, על כל הדברים האלה. עורך דין עובד על זה.
הוא יכול לעזור?
הוא, אינשאללה, אני מקווה, הוא יעזור לנו, הוא יעזור. ואנחנו קודם כל רוצים עזרה של האלוהים. זה גיל השלום, אני חושב אם יעשו לנו...
הלוואי.
אינשאללה, בעזרת השם, הם יעשו לנו את השלום, בעזרת
יש
השם.
לך תפקיד.
אבל את השלום לא יקום על לקחת את האדמה של זה, או לעשות גדר שמה, או לעשות בניינים, או להרוס את החיים של האנשים, לא. השלום הוא קיים על העמודים של השלום.
של הוויתור.
כן, בדיוק. לא יכול... אנחנו, אלוהים שלח אותנו לחיות.
The efforts of the people of Wadi Fukin and Tzur Hadassah have paid off for both sides. They made environmental gains and halted the separation wall. But the future is uncertain. The current Israeli government could undo the freeze at any time, and it continues to allow the expansion of settlements like Beitar Illit. In the meantime, special friendships like these will continue to cross borders.
Thank you for watching. Join me again next time here on Witness.